Consider supporting Sonic Guru Productions on Patreon for just $1 a month. Link below in the description.
Yeah.
Speaking of anniversaries, we had a special anniversary for Sonic R, of all games.
Yes.
And, okay, Sonic R is a guilty pleasure game for me. I love that game.
I mean,
It's a bad game.
It's
Don't
not
get me wrong, it is a bad game, but it's so bad it's good. Not just, oh god, kill me.
Yeah, it's more of a, this is very sloppy and I can cheese my way through these levels, couldn't I?
Oh, I cheesed it all the way fucking through. I sat down one stream, played the entire game in one sitting.
Yeah, there you go.
It took me 2 hours, it's fine. all Chaos Emeralds, all characters, Supersonic, all the way.
Yeah, there you go.
But and it's back on, when was it? Where's the date? November 18th, 2020 was when it was posted. And it was 20 years ago. No, wait, not 20. That's 23 years ago on that day. That's how late we are to this freaking story.
Yeah. No,
but to celebrate this game, Rich Elson, I wasn't saying Richard Dan, but Rich Elson.
He's Richard anyway, so.
Worked on Sonic the Comic, commemorated it with, or commissioned anyway, with a very fucking beautiful piece of artwork.
Yeah.
I love this artwork. I love the art style.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the moment I saw it, I'm like, you cannot mistake this for not being his style, really. Yeah,
it's it's basically what gets me is just the eye shape and the shoe shape. It's very distinct.
Yeah.
Like for a second, I thought it was just some fan thing. It's STC Online. Someone actually got a really good emulation of styles. Like, no, this is the guy.
Yeah.
Holy shit, he's still drawing.
Yeah. Oh Lord. So this was part of like the Sega Forever thing, which has been going on for a while. That's kind of like, this also commemorates, the history of very Sega games over the ways, and they've done one on Golden Axe, on Jet Set Radio, little video tidbits. I remember when they did one on a Decapita, they actually mentioned the Sonic comic version in there. They actually mentioned that in there as well.
Yeah, and this picture, if you're still looking at it right now, all the main stuff, even the characters, they finally got the freaking color right on Knuckles' shoes. I'm not letting that one go.
Yeah, I actually noticed his if you're a STC fan, you notice like his supposed to be his the little white thing around near his neck, well, whatever you want to call it. Crest. Basically that was like a collar. That was like a metal collar he wore. In this, I've only just noticed this. It actually is just, as you said, it's just the crest. It's not that anymore.
Yeah, Amy looks right. Metal Sonic looks like Metallics, but a bit more detail.
Well, again,
Robo, Tails Doll, Metal Knuckles. I never noticed before Metal Knuckles' metal quills actually have vents on them. I never noticed that. I thought it was very sharp quills.
Yeah, well, that depends on whether it was on the 3D model of the game or whether it was in the illustration. I'm not sure, really.
Illustration. 3D model didn't actually show it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And the right Eggman, which I don't think he's actually drawn before.
No, that's something I find really weird, is that this is the first time he's ever drawn... he's done the classic Robotnik before. Like, in the comics, he did look like his, Teddy Roosevelt as a clown, basically. That's what the character's based on.
Yeah, a bit more Adventures look at certain design on it.
Yeah, well...
There was an entire story arc of him becoming the Adventures lookalike.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was a story. It was to do with, I can't remember the name of it. So my mind is betraying me at this moment. But basically, there was a whole thing where he says, "I want a new look," and he literally gets in an eggshell. And the next story, he looks basically the Adventures Robotnik, except being Elson, he actually makes him look menacing. In fact, as you go,
very frightening.
Yeah, and in fact, for the comic, you can see him sort of evolution the character, particularly his body becomes bigger, much more angrier. He looks like someone who would literally, he could just belly flop on you and you'd be dead.
Ta-da! Pancake.
Yeah.
It's making me want to go back and read the comics, because I mentioned earlier, we almost did a top 6 or top 7 storylines for Sonic the Comic.
Yeah, so so bit of history. So a couple of years ago, I actually, weirdly enough, my art tutor was Nigel Kitchen, aka the head writer of Sonic Team, Sonic Comics, sorry. So yeah, I was actually at the he was my art tutor, and after a while, I kind of, one thing I tried not to do was asking constantly about Sonic the Comic and what about this and what about that. So I actually asked him one time do you mind if we do an interview thing? So I got him off for a brief period of time. We went into an area where I showed him a bunch of scans from the pages of the comic. I had an audio recorder on me to do that, and it really was just me and him in a room with a computer screen, just chatting about, what do you remember about this, or doing this story, or hey, in this panel, whatever. And there was some nice tidbit stories of the quality of the recording it really was just us two in a room. You could hear there was just white noise everywhere. You can hear the door opening in the background. So we never ended up using it, which
I tried to clean it as best I could with what limited stuff I had at the time. I had Audacity, which is everyone's favorite recording tool. It's not a bad tool. It's just Audition has a lot more options.
Yeah,
and it was just it was unsalvageable, and I feel really bad for abandoning it.
Yeah, it's a shame because again, I thought it would have been a fun thing to do, but sometimes the real world gets in the way of actually what you want to do.
Yeah, but the storylines of Sonic the Comic, like everyone keeps complaining about Sonic being a bit more of a dick in this game, in the comic, which he's a bit more edgy because that's what British teenagers were kind of like.
Yeah, well, that was something. The story goes that when they started the comic off, the idea was, they were given a Bible essentially, telling them about the characters and who they are, whatever. And it was written as if in the character, which was, if you can probably check it online, and it's quite obnoxious. So they looked at this and thought like, no, we're not doing this. Throw it in the bin. And so Kitchen decided, if we're going to make a character cool, his idea was someone who was a bit of, like you said, a dick. He was insulting his friends. He would be in dangerous scenarios, joking about it. So that was his take on a cool, edgy character. And basically, that's how it worked. They just basically took these characters, what they were, or at least what they knew of them through games or various other medias, and just said, well, let's do our spin on them. Like Amy, for instance, was just the annoying damsel in distress. Like there's so many issues where she's getting caged up or turned into a badnik. And then halfway through, she ends up, becoming more self-sufficient. She actually goes on her own ventures. She gets a friend, the Canary, and they go on like their own spin-off strips for years. I think actually Kitchen he did say this to me, that after a while, like he stopped writing for Amy after a while and left it to another writer. Again, his name's Lou. Sorry, I forgot his full name. But he essentially did a lot of those Amy and Techno stories where they go on a dimension hopping adventure where they end up on Earth in one of them. And
they were weird.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That was the great thing about the comic, is you had like the main storylines, which were normally Sonic versus Robotnik and how Mobius is affected, and loose adaptations of the games of the time. But then you have these weird offshoots where one's about Tails. Like one of them, he was weirdly enough, it's like his race actually existed in another dimension, and he was some knight thing that went on for a while.
Yeah.
Knuckles had a whole arc where the Master Emerald was destroyed, and then he had to go around the world, and there was one like a pirate themed one, a Western one. There was one that was basically Village of the Damned, or Wicker Man. Basically, they did a light version of that story where he ends up in a town full of occults.
Yeah, that was a weird. And it's just like when I get around to like saying the best stories, like the Doomsday storyline was fucking great. But trying to describe the Doomsday, it's like, okay, Doomsday happens because there's two suns and one of them has supersonic inside it. Supersonic, it sounds like supersonic evil. How do you get inside that sun? Well, the Kellogg's put him there from the Omniviewer. And the reason why he's doing that because he went to a different dimension after Sonic got split from Supersonic. But because of that happened, Sonic turned supersonic because of the radiation from a Master Emerald powered Guardian, which we've placed in the Master Emerald, which was destroyed by a Guardian because of another kid they called Dr. Zachary, who was evil. It's like, Christ Almighty! You have to go like 20 to 30 different comic storylines just to describe the Doomsday storyline, which spread across the entire comic.
At times like this, I'm surprised Linkara has not ever done an episode about that. No one's done a Patreon to him to look at it, because he would have to do that level of. So they did this and did this and did this. It's like, wow, this is quite.
Yeah, like I said, the best way to describe the Doomsday storyline is to work backwards.
But I said this is how. The comic went from. Originally started in '92 or '3. I think it might again. So it started in '93 and more or less ran all the way to 2000, and then eventually they did reissues where they did new covers. Elson would do
It went until '99 because
no, it's 2000. It was definitely 2000.
Are you sure? Because I remember Sonic Adventure. When Sonic Adventure came out. My first issue was the first issue of the Adventure arc, which was the final arc of the entire story.
Okay, then.
Because by the time that finished, it just repeated back to the Brutus arc.
Yeah, well, my first issue was the final part of Running Wild, which is Sonic gets discovered in the bar and goes apeshit, and then they eventually get rid of him by shoving him into a star post. But again, this is what I mean, is like, they took literally star post, the checkpoint in the game, and they use it as basically, oh, this is how you travel to other dimensions.
Do the same thing in the Archie ones as well. You need a Chaos Emerald to do it as well. So
okay, all right.
Or a Warp Ring.
Yeah, but like I said, this is what I mean, is then they would take these ideas and just go on. Like Sonic 3D, this is a good one. So they took a game which basically Sonic's in an isometric game where you just have to run around destroying badniks and collecting birds. What does the UK comic do? Well, we explore the island. It turns out it's actually got a ring that travels to another dimension, which features this entire army, this entire Roman Empire in outer space thing called the
Dracon Empire.
The Dracon Empire, which is basically imagine the Creed and sort of Star Trek put in together. And the twist being is that they're these supposed to be ancient race, powerful warriors, but if you break one of their heads off, they're all fish people. They're all descendant basically from amphibians.
Yeah, just giant robot bodies, which tend to later get brought back up in the Adventure arc because they're rivals to the Echidnas.
Yeah. And Kitchen did say this to me. There was a story called really early on called The Sentinel, which is basically something to face off this giant statue thing, which eventually crumbles. And then years later, he actually used that setup to actually set up the Dracon Empire and the whole aspect of their world and whatever. So again, this is what I mean by they really were just making this up and using whatever elements they can to make these stories.
And also, that storyline is the first appearance of Metal Knuckles.
Indeed.
Which is the first Metal Knuckles.
Yeah. Actually trying to get back to the image. Did this predate? I'm trying to think, did it predate or was it around about the same time Metal Knuckles?
Metallic's Knuckles predated Metal Knuckles. I'm not too sure if it predated Mecha Knuckles.
Right.
Which is the Archie version of a roboticized Knuckles.
Yeah.
So I need to look that up.
Yeah, but like I said, the fact that we just got this one image, which, like I said, it's celebrating not arguably one of the best spin-off Sonic games, but yeah, it's bringing back all these memories we have of the UK comic. And like I said, it is. I'm always fascinated when Elson does new images. Every now and again, he does new drawings or whatever. And the few times I've been in contact with him, he's always, he loves what he did for the Sonic the comic. He loved working with Kitching. He loved the ideas. Although one thing he did say. He did say that when they did the CD adaptation, the whole time stone business or whatever, he could not get his head around that. In fact, I think Kitchen once said, Elson doesn't understand time travel. He just doesn't. So I don't know whether. So if you're listening, Elson, I apologize. But yeah, like I said, it is fun. Even just something like this image here, it's such a laugh, really.
Yeah. I'm gonna go back and play Sonic with the Mania mod.
I'm gonna read the comics again probably, and then maybe play the game if I